Hello, good evening, sir. Professor Murthy.
Professor Gallo is connected.
Okay, right. Professor Murthy, good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible. Good evening.
Dr. Diop and Purix and Nagling?
Yeah.
I know them.
Yeah. They have joined. Gallo will
I'm not
join.
able to hear. Unmute.
Sir, I will call him. I can hear you. I think his device volume must be low. I will call him. So Dr. Yardi has not joined yet.
Acha, okay. Yeah, Gallo has joined.
Yes, here I am.
Yeah, hello. Good evening. Good
evening.
afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Meshram. Unmute.
Good evening. Good evening.
The Diop and Purix logged in. I know them.
Yeah. Yes, they have joined. All the faculty have joined.
That.
Bonjour, Monsieur Dima. Comment allez-vous?
Hello, good evening, Dr. Diop. I'm
Hello.
Dr.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Murthy. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm fine. Long time.
Hi, Dr. Martier.
Yeah.
Hi, Rad.
Hello, hi. Hi,
How are
everybody.
you?
Hi.
Everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. How are you doing?
Gallo, nice to see you.
Yeah, right. How are you doing? Very nice to see
I'm
you.
fine, Gallo. I'm fine.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Raj.
Hello. Hi, Chandrasekhar. You okay?
Yeah, good.
Yes. I was just admiring the Senegalese art behind Gallo.
Yes, absolutely.
He has a wonderful collection. He has a wonderful collection of Senegalese art. I am honored to have one of them, Gallo.
Yeah.
The bus in the car is something beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you know this room, right? You were
Yes.
there. What about your granddaughter?
Oh, fine. I have 4 of them now, Gallo.
Yeah, but the first one, the
The
girl.
first one, Layla.
Yeah,
Layla is
Layla.
fine. She is now 8. Yes.
Yeah, she's 8. Okay.
Yeah.
What about your wife? She's fine.
She's
also?
fine. She's fine. She's fine. Alhamdulillah. She's fine.
I really miss you all, guys.
I miss you as well.
Good.
Yeah. Hello, Stu. Hello, Marian.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve.
Dr. Carol has
Hi,
joined.
Steve.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hello,
Thanks,
Professor
Shekar.
Carol. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Bill.
Hi. Good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, Bill, how are you?
I'm fine. Hello. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Marco. Good morning.
Good morning, Metran. Good morning to everybody.
Hey, Marco.
Hi there, Marco.
Hi.
Hello, Marco. How are you?
Find yourself. Très bien.
Michelle, good to see you.
Fine. Merci. Tu as raison, on va commencer à parler français un peu.
Ah oui. On va le faire.
¿Cómo va usted?
Muy bien, amigo, querido
Bien.
hermano.
Mi hermano y amigo.
¿Cómo está?
Muy bien,
¿Está bien?
profesor Dimas. Muy bien.
Muy bien. Es perfecto.
Okay, it's 1 p.m. What should we do, Professor Sandra? Should we start?
Je fais une petite speech quelque part pour dire que
Well,
Yeah, we'll start.
okay.
We'll
thank
start
you.
the session. Mansi?
Okay.
Mansi, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dear friends, bonjour, buenos
Bonjour.
dias, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Mhm.
Tropical and Geographical Neurology Specialty Group of World Federation of Neurology and Indian Academy of Neurology have come together to organize this important series, Inspiring People in Neurosciences. In this series, we will learn about the legends who have done great work in the field of neurosciences. The idea is to come to know about their great work they have done, and also to stimulate the younger generation to do outstanding work in the field of their choice. Today, we have the 9th session, and I welcome you all for this. Inspirational person today is Professor Michel Dumas. WFN had recognized his contribution to world neurology by awarding him WFN Medal for International Service to Neurology in 2015 at Santiago, and he has a stupendous work also in the field of tropical neurology. We are very fortunate to have Professor Michel Dumas with us today. Warm welcome to you, sir. To talk about this inspirational person today, we have Professor Amadou Gallo and Professor Pierre-Marie Fuchs. To chair the session, we have Professor Gallo. In 2015, in fact, Professor Gallo had read the citation for Professor Dumas, and those moments are still very fresh in my mind. Professor Gallo is Professor of Neurology, Epileptology, and Neurosciences at the University Sheikh Anta Diop of Dakar, Senegal. He did his MD in 1988 in Dakar and specialized in neurology, universities of Dakar, Senegal, and France. Then he did the PhD in neurosciences in Limoges, France, and high degree in neurobiology at University of Paris and University of Diplomats of Neurophysiology and Epileptology, also from Paris. He's an expert in public health and health promotion. Gallo is also worked as assistant professor at the University Hospital of Limoges for 4 years and experienced visiting professionals in various places, including UCLA, Caesar Center, Los Angeles, the Netherlands, Japan, and Canada. He's past president of Society of Neuroscientists of Africa. He's a past chair of African Commission of International League Against Epilepsy, and he served as elected trustee of World Federation of Neurology from 2015 to 2017. Currently, head of the Department of Neurology at the Fan University Hospital and Director General of Research and Innovation in the Ministry of Higher Education. So he's very much connected with teaching, education in African countries, as well as public health and public education in that region. So he has very important contribution in these areas, and therefore he was decorated as Officer of Order National du Lion, a national medal decreed by the President of Republic of Senegal. Welcome, Professor Diop.
Hi, thank you.
Warm welcome to Professor Pierre-Marie Proux, and I would also like to welcome invited panelist, Professor Desmond Honeto from University of Abomey Calavi, Cotonou, Benin. I would also like to welcome certain distinguished personalities who are present in the room. WFN President, Professor William Carroll, past WFN President, Professor Raj Shakir, WFN Trustee, Professor Steve Lewis, WFN Trustee, Professor Marian Visser, Secretary General of Tropical Neurology Group of WFN, Professor Marco Medina, past President of IAN, Professor J.M.K. Murthy, and other distinguished panelists. And I would also like to congratulate recently elected President-elect of Indian Academy of Neurology, Professor Gagandeep Singh, and warm welcome to you, Dr. Gagandeep Singh. And the President of Indian Academy of Neurology, Dr. Nirmal Surya, will soon join. We have a chair of WFN World Brain Day and Advocacy, Professor Tisa Vijayaratne. I have my friend and epileptologist, Dr. Nandan Yardi, Professor Sarosh Katrak, and all the distinguished people present in this room. A warm welcome. And before I hand over for the proceedings to Professor Gallo, I would also like to mention that this series is going on extremely well. Very positive feedback from the participants, and you will enjoy today's session because we have with us Professor Michel Dumas and other stalwarts who have worked with him, and Professor Dumas had mentored a whole lot of people. I would also like to remind you that the next session will be about Professor P.K. Thomas, most probably on 8th January 2022, and Professor Gareth Levlin and others, and including Professor Wolfgang Risol, will talk about Professor P.K. Thomas. Now with this, I would like to hand over to Professor Amadou Gallo Diop, the chair of today's session, to continue further proceeding. Professor Gallo.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you. I'm very pleased to see all these great persons. I love each of them. I really miss you, seeing you physically. And I think that it's a wonderful thing that you are doing to, to celebrate people when they are alive and give them the opportunity to hear and see how we love them. And that's the case for Professor Michel Dumas. And I'm not going to be, I won't doing a, presentation as a scientific one. I'm just trying to let my hearts express what is inside. I just have 3 slides. The first one is this one, where you can recognize the third person from the right in the top with the yellow arrow on his head, which is who is Professor Michel Dumas. And in the front, the first guy you see was his mentor, Professor Henri Collin, was really the, you know, the grandfather of neuropsychiatry in sub-Saharan Africa. I wasn't there, I was just 1 year old, so I've just learned and hear a lot about what these great guys has done, coming from different African countries. And that's the time when everything happened, with generous people who had a vision and installed neurology and psychiatry in Africa. We've heard a lot about the history of the neurology science in Dakar, in West Africa, and Professor Henri Collin was very close to the head of the state, so he had opportunity to build things, and he did it. And the great thing he did is that he mixed the European and French methodology and approach with the African approach in managing, psychiatric disorder in Senegal, and that was, something extraordinary. And from that, the department was split to psychiatry, neurology, and neurosurgery. And it's from Dakar that many things did happen. And this is the outcome. From Dakar, one of these people who was trained by Professor Collin and Professor Dumas, who was Professor Giordano, went to Ivory Coast and set up the second center, the second school for neurosciences. And Dakar and Abidjan mixed together as sent to every sub-Saharan African country, even to France and Haiti, doctors, neurologists, neurosurgeons, psychiatrists, since the 60s. There's right now no single French-speaking African country which does not has at least one neurologist or one neurosurgeon or one neurosurgeon. And if there is that one, you can be sure it comes from Dakar or Abidjan. The third slide, and WHO has recognized Dakar Center as a training center, and WFN has did so. The third and the last slide is from that very beautiful history. The current outcome is this one. I mean, the people trained by Henri Collin, then trained by Michel Dumas, then trained by Professor Pierre Ndiaye, who died just a year ago, Professor Giordano. When we start training people in Africa from the African reality and completing their curriculum with very specific expertise in neuroradiology, neuroimaging, tropical medicine, public health, and so on and so on, you see how the curve goes up, you know, and now we are at least, you know, 300 neurologists in every African country. There are just few countries, I mean, 4 or 5, which that was. You know, it's not the legacy of a person, it's the legacy of a beautiful history. This legacy was possible because Professor Dumas is just a generous, open-minded people. You may know that Professor Dumas was not born in France. Professor Dumas was born in Bamako, Mali. Then Professor Dumas did his first schools, you know, primary school in Dakar, Senegal, where his first, you know, daughter was born. Professor Dumas is not only a French, he is also a Malian, a Senegalese, and an African guy that gave to him a very open mind, sensitive to all the culture. Professor Pro will show you what he did from Limoges, dedicated to Latin America, Asia, and so on and so on. And that's why I'm very pleased to see Marco and our friends from India being in the session. We just love him. In our department, there is a unit, which is the unit of neuroimaging, which is named Professor Michel Dumas, because as you do guys, we did not want to wait and we wanted to celebrate it as he is alive. We wish him a very long and healthy, nice life. We need him every single day. Our family, you know, with family of many of us are linked. We would love to see his wife to being here, but we lost her decades ago, and we know how important this lady was, crucial in his life. We are thinking about, we remember about Madame Dumas. We know all the daughters and sons, and we are beyond neurology. We are just in a kind of humanity. The last words I would like to say is a simple word that every people know. It's simple, but it's deep, it's sincere, and it summarizes everything. It's just to say to Professor Dumas, merci. Merci, Monsieur Dumas. Nous sommes très contents de vous avoir. Nous sommes très fiers de vous. Nous vous témoignons une reconnaissance et une relation éternelle. Nous vous souhaitons une longue vie, une santé pleine et que vous continuez à nous inspirer et à inspirer le monde. Merci, merci, merci.
Merci, mon cher Gallo, pour rappeler ces vieux souvenirs et surtout pour rappeler l'action familière, humaine, amoureuse que pouvait avoir ma chère épouse vis-à-vis de vous tous. Merci, mon cher Gallo.
Now, I think that we're going to move to the next presentation, and I would like to introduce, if I succeed to get back to my slides. and talk about Professor Pierre-Marie Preux, who is managing very well the legacy of Professor Michel Dumas. You will see that in his slides. When Professor Dumas left Dakar and Africa, the first thing he did was to set up, a facility and build something useful to the humanity. He went to Limoges, and from there, he go to the world. Professor Pierre-Marie Preux, I don't know if you see my slides.
No, not
shared.
this slide.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah, now, yes.
Okay. Professor Pierre-Marie Preux is a professor of epidemiology at University of Limoges since 2001. He is a neurologist, also trained in clinical neurophysiology in Paris, in epidemiology, biostatistics, public health in Paris and Bordeaux, France. He has also been trained in tropical neurology and tropical medicine in Limoges and Bordeaux. He's heading right now the Institute of Neuroepidemiology and Tropical Neurology since 2006. He's heading also a great unit of research on tropical neuroepidemiology and a clinical research and biostatic units at the University Hospital in Limoges. He's coordinator of the public health master in the same university. He was a past dean for research at the School of Medicine of Limoges, past associate director in another institute, and past president of the unit of research at the University of Limoges. He has chaired the task force on seizure and epilepsy in the tropics for the International League Against Epilepsy, and is well recognized worldwide, as an expert in neuroepidemiology, tropical neuroepidemiology, in particular about epilepsy and dementia in developing countries. He has published and communicated over 400 papers and speeches and contribute to many chapters of book. He is decorated as Chevalier de l'Ordre des Palmes Académiques, which is a great honor in France. I'm very pleased to give the floor to Professor Pierre-Marie Preux. Professor Preux.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, mon cher Gallo. Do you see my slides? I think so.
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. First, I obviously, like Gallo, I would like to thank the World Federation of Neurology for giving us opportunity to talk about Professor Dumas today. I am very happy because I see that many friends of Michel Dumas are connected and are listening to us. So thank you for this opportunity. So Professor Dumas arrived in Limoges in September 1976. No doubt he would have preferred to land further south, but he was very quickly integrated into the medical community and the university. So first he arrived in a brand new university hospital, and his first mission was to structure, to animate the Department of Neurology. And in this department, he welcomed many students and residents, French or foreigners, to whom he transmitted always his passion. I myself met him for the first time in this department in 1989. Professor Dumas used to visit the ward between noon and 2 p.m., which sometimes led to hypoglycemia among the residents. But he took the time for bedside teaching and always showed great humanity towards patients. So, So in January 1982, as Gallo said, so 5 years later, after his arrival in Limoges, Professor Dumas founded the Institute of Epidemiology and Tropical Neurology within the School of Medicine and the University of Limoges. This institute was initially located in 2 small rooms, in fact, and it expanded very, very quickly thanks to the strong will of Michel Dumas. And you can see the building. And from the very beginning, the institute objectives were training, research, networking, and international cooperation. You can see here some pictures of this period of intensive training of African neurologists who spent between 1 and 4 years in Limoges in the Department of Neurology and in the Institute. We can, for example, see Professor Daniel Ndo from Cameroon, who was the first African colleague to train in Limoges in 1983. He unfortunately passed away since then. Also, you can see Professor Winato here on this picture, Professor Beben Banzuzi, who is listening, I think, from Congo, and other colleagues. But Professor Dumas' students were not only Africans. Limoges, for example, trained 8 out of the 9 Cambodian neurologists in practice. On the right, you have Professor Chan Samlang and Professor Ros Sina. And gradually, the training has extended to public health under the direction of Professor Dumas again, because he understood very early on the importance of epidemiology to base decisions on valid figures. Some neurologists were trained in epidemiology, as Professor Winato and myself, but also students went directly into public health. For example, here you can recognize Professor Ngungu from Gabon, Dr. Georges Zengiyumva from Burundi, Dr. Juan Gil from Uruguay, and I saw connected several students from Latin America, Ecuador, Peru, Honduras, and thanks to him, we have extended our scope to other zones out of Africa. A master degrees in public health opened, and that was initially restricted to tropical neuroepidemiology. But in 2018, we were able to launch a full master degree in public health, again, thanks to Michel Dumas. So this training of the students, for a large number of students, led to a creation of a large network for study and research in tropical neurology called RARENT, and which at its peak included more than 100 members in 35 countries. In 1997, this network was awarded by the Francophone Research Prize by the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, called the Mohamed El Fassi Prize. And also, sessions on tropical neurology were organized each year since 1998 during the larger French Congress of Neurology, les Journées de Neurologie de Langue Française. You have here also other networks that have emerged, such as Impact Fora, focused on access to care in low and middle income countries, thanks to a close collaboration with Sanofi, and more recently, the Central and West Africa Chronic Disease Network. What about the research now? So the research was gradually structured within a research unit recognized by the French Ministry of Higher Education and Research, and Professor Dumas led this team until the early 2000s. He gave the impulse that drove our team towards more prestigious recognitions. In 2012, the research unit was recognized by INSERM, renewed in 2018, and we have just learned that it has been recognized once again until 2027. And also, since 2019, the unit are associated with IRD, Institute of Research for Development, and we are awaiting the response for a full label that Professor Dumas started to seek more than 30 years ago. So you can see that the path was done, in fact, and we have only to follow the path. And I cannot talk about all the colleagues who have supported the development of research in our institute, but I would like to mention here the unfailing support of the Public Health Institute of Bordeaux in the person of Roger Salamon, who is a close friend of Michel Dumas. The first research topics were devoted to neuroparasitology, in particular human African trypanosomiasis and neurocysticercosis, and also devoted to HTLV1 retrovirus. And the first book on tropical neurology was published. Then, from the 2000s onwards, again, under the guidance of Michel Dumas, teams expanded to epilepsy, vascular, and neurodegenerative diseases. And very recently, the extension has continued beyond neurology to other chronic diseases, including cancer. Professor Dumas always reminds us that our research should be pragmatic, applied, oriented towards improving access to care and reducing treatment gap. This is why we are developing now interventional and implementation research in order to propose appropriate health policies and advocacy towards national authorities, as you can see here in Cambodia and Laos on this picture, in particular on epilepsy and prevention of epilepsy. This research work is coordinated by Limoges, but always in close partnership with colleagues in the countries, and is almost always population-based epidemiological work in line with methodological international standards and often in challenging environments. And sometimes Professor Dumas himself took some risk, in fact, doing these research and travels. What about the publication? Professor Dumas has published more than 600 papers over the year. And in 2018, we had the pleasure of co-editing together a book on neuroepidemiology in tropical health. Many of you have participated in this book, so thank you so much for that. Professor Dumas provided ambitious suggestions, either orally or through visionary written notes, such as these two, but I have many of them, in fact. In the one on the left, you can read that the future lies in a partnership with the Institute of Research for Development, a partnership that we just obtained. And in the one on the right, he suggested that the Institute should be modeled as a London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. I don't know if we will succeed in that, but it's a pathway that we can follow. What about congresses? Professor Dumas wanted to make tropical neurology better known worldwide, and he organized the first international congresses devoted to it. The most important ones took place in 1991 and 1994 in Limoges, and also in Fort-de-France in Martinique in 1998. These congresses brought together between 200 and 400 people. It is impossible not to mention here the promotion of Francophonie. Professor Dumas has always put it forward, not to defend it, it does not need it, but in the form of a particular approach to problems. He has pushed this issue forward as University International Relations Officer He promoted it on the international scene, and he is also a corresponding member of the French Academy of Medicine. And finally, to conclude, in recognition of all his action, and Chandra talked about that earlier, Professor Dumas received in 2015 the Services to International Award from the World Federation of Neurology. Thanks to his efforts, his passion, his clear vision of the future, he has inspired and is inspiring generation of students, neurologists, public health actors, and from other specialties. So, mon cher maître, comme Gallo tout à l'heure, je voulais juste vous remercier. Big thank you for all of your action, your life, and on behalf also on all your students. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, mon cher maître.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. We'll give the floor to Professor Dumas at the end. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Disman Winato. Disman Winato is, this is from this generation number 5, because you may know that in 2021, there are 7 generations of neurologists which has been produced since Henri Coulomb. 7 generations. This man is an example of what has been the outcome of the work of Professor Dumas. In Benin, you can have the same one in Togo with Professor Balogo, in Mauritania with Professor Diagana, in Mali with Professor Maiga, and Cameroon, and so on and so on. Before giving him the floor, I would like to let you remark the presence of Professor Jacques Hugon, who was one of the alumnus of Professor Dumas in Limoges, who is a basic great neuroscientist, and his presence in the room means everything for us. Professor Winato is a professor of neurology. He is a great expert in neuroepidemiology and public health. He is an expert recognized by WHO, the African Union, and the West African states, gathering all the French-speaking countries. He's traveling a lot between France and Africa and share his expertise about this field I've cited. Professor Winato, in the name of the students of Professor Dumas, I give you the floor to share with the words what has been your impression about the legacy that we are talking about for Professor Dumas. Professor Disman Winato.
Thank you very much, Professor Gallo. I will speak in French. Alors, je voudrais emboîter le pas à tous mes prédécesseurs et remercier la Fédération mondiale de neurologie pour l'occasion qu'elle nous donne de parler de notre cher maître, le professeur Dumas. Alors, comme vous le savez bien, le professeur Dumas...
I will translate from time to time. He's just thanking the WFN for having organized this session for Professor Dumas.
Le professeur Dumas a été l'artisan de la convention entre l'Université de Cotonou et l'Université de Limoges en 1983. Et moi, je l'ai rencontré la première fois en 1987 lors d'une de ses missions d'enseignement au Bénin. Alors, m'ayant remarqué en classe, il s'approcha de moi à une des pauses pour me demander si je voulais soutenir en neurologie. Ma réponse a été d'office oui. Et sans plus tarder à la fin,
he met Professor Dumas in 1987, and after the class, Professor Dumas, who saw that this guy was probably a smart one, proposed to him to join neurology, and that's what he did. And since then, under the umbrella of different MOUs, there's a cooperation which has been set up with the two universities.
Donc, j'ai accepté de faire cette thèse avec lui et immédiatement à la fin de cette thèse, il m'a fait venir à Limoges avec une bourse de l'Institut, une vacation en neurologie et une inscription en neurologie.
He made him come to Limoges, and he fought to have for him a bursary and also a position for having some financial means for his daily life in Limoges.
Donc, aussitôt après ma première année de neurologie, il me proposa de lui-même un renforcement de capacité en épidémiologie, ce qui a été rapidement fait l'année d'après, après l'interruption d'une année de neurologie. Et après l'obtention de mon diplôme d'épidémiologie, j'ai continué mes études de neurologie, d'abord le DIS de neurologie, puis le diplôme de neurologie tropicale. Et en 1998, j'ai pris la décision de retourner au Bénin. Ce qui a été très fort.
Asked him if he was interested in epidemiology. While he was trained in neurology, in addition to that, he starts, being trained in public health and epidemiology. And after having got all his degrees, his natural choice was to return back to his country and set up things over there.
Donc, M. Dumas était vraiment très content de ma décision et m'a aidé dans mon déménagement en m'offrant beaucoup de choses, beaucoup de documents, toutes sortes d'outils pouvant me permettre de faire une très bonne carrière de neurologie et d'enseignant.
Professor Dumas was very excited to see Winato go back to his country. I can say you that Professor Dumas is very against the brain drain. He used to tell to the trained people that they should go back to their country and raise expertise over there. That's why he was very glad to see this man going back to his country and set up things.
Donc, arrivé au Bénin, il ne m'a pas lâché. Il a su m'encadrer durant toutes mes candidatures pour les différentes étapes du CAMES jusqu'à finir complètement ma carrière.
He just did not let him go back home. He was also following every step in his career, including all the exams and so on, to be sure that this guy is climbing the different steps one by one.
Au vu de tout ce qui précède, je peux témoigner que le professeur Michel Dumas est un homme hors du commun qui a encadré toute ma carrière. Je garde de lui le souvenir d'un maître généreux, disponible. Et vraiment, je ne sais comment le qualifier encore. Je vais, pour la petite histoire, vous raconter 3 anecdotes. La première, ma première semaine de séjour à Limoges, M. Dumas m'a donné un bureau au sous-sol de la faculté de médecine. Et immédiatement, il ordonna à ce qu'on m'apporte 3 boîtes d'archives. Il me dit, je cite, « Dans cette première boîte, tu vas mettre tous les tirés à part des publications que nous allons faire. Dans la deuxième boîte, tu vas mettre tous les résumés des communications au congrès et tout ça là. Et dans la troisième boîte, tu mettras toutes les attestations des séminaires, des congrès et tout. » Vraiment, je n'y comprenais rien, mais j'obéissais. Et c'est au soir, au moment de retourner au Bénin, qu'il ordonna à sa secrétaire de me faire une copie de tous ces documents et de garder une copie à l'Institut. Et ce n'est qu'en début de carrière que j'ai pu décoder le message du professeur Dumas. Vraiment, je le remercie profondément pour ça. Deuxième anecdote.
Well, je ne pourrais pas tout retenir. You are just characterized Professor Dumas as an outstanding and generous and available guy. And he was just, reporting some experience that he shared with Professor Dumas, who was trying to teach to him how to organize, his career by, having all his documents and so on and so on. Il va falloir peut-être résumer parce que...
Oui, très bien. Donc, la deuxième anecdote, c'était lorsque je voulais passer la maîtrise d'assistanat et j'étais désemparé, personne ne m'aidait, je n'avais aucun document. J'ai appelé le professeur Dumas pour dire de m'aider. Alors, il me dit exactement ceci. Mon pauvre ordinateur, et les sacoches que je vous ai données lors de votre déménagement. Et c'est là que je découvris un trésor, vraiment tous les éléments qui m'ont servi jusqu'à présent à finir ma carrière. La troisième et dernière anecdote, c'est un jour, à 2 semaines à peu près des examens de neurologie, M. Dumas me demanda d'aller à un congrès présenter des posters et tout ça, alors que les autres neurologues étaient en train de bosser. Alors, j'étais triste, un peu embêté, je me suis retiré dans mon bureau, quand subitement, M. Dumas arriva et me dit, « Mon pauvre Renato, le jour que je mourrai, vous viendrez fleurir ma tombe. » Et là encore, j'ai mis du temps, j'ai mis des années après pour décoder le message que M. Dumas était en train de passer. Monsieur le professeur Dumas, cher maître, vous avez eu l'occasion de me voir grandir et de voir vous-même l'impact que vous avez eu sur ma vie professionnelle, sur ma vie familiale et sur plein d'autres choses. Je pense honnêtement avoir essayé de reproduire votre modèle tel que vous me l'avez inculqué. Et je crois ne vous avoir pas déçu. Cher maître, profonde gratitude et prompt rétablissement. Merci, professeur Gallo.
Thank you. It was just reporting, how impacting was the relation he had with Professor Dumas, who followed every step, as I said, in his career and is expressing all his gratitude. I just can add that we have no time to let everybody talk, but if we gave the floor to all the actual professors of neurology in sub-Saharan Africa, from east to west, the south and north, you can have many kind of speeches expressing the gratitude we have for Professor Michel Dumas. Now, the last part of our session is to, give the floor to the master, who is Professor Dumas. At the end of his speech, Professor Pierre-Marie Preux will summarize in English the main points he wants to raise. Mon cher maître, nous vous donnons la parole pour la dernière partie de cette session qui vous est consacrée. À la fin de ce que vous voudrez bien exprimer, Pierre-Marie fera un résumé en anglais à nos amis à travers le monde. Vous avez la parole.
Merci, mon cher Gallo, pour tracer le programme de la suite de cette réunion. Je voudrais au préalable dire une simple chose dont Winnetou est un exemple. On ne fait strictement rien dans la vie lorsqu'on veut construire quelque chose si le groupe dans lequel on œuvre, si ce groupe n'adhère pas. Et je dois dire que j'ai eu dans ma vie une très grande chance. La première de cette chance s'est déroulée à Dakar. Nous en reparlerons dans une seconde. Et j'ai eu le privilège de travailler avec le professeur Collomb et avec le groupe du personnel de l'hôpital et de l'université de Dakar, qui était une université en cours de construction. Je vais vous faire une confidence.
Vous me laissez traduire de temps en temps quand même, parce que sinon ça va être compliqué.
My translator.
Je n'ai pas le talent de Gallo. I am not a professional interpreter as Gallo, but I will try to do it. Professor Dumas said that he could have done nothing if the group just near him didn't adhere, in fact, in his views. So he has a privilege really to have a group, and even in Dakar, to have a group near Professor Henri Collomb, who really was a super group who adhere to the ideas of his master and of his.
Ma seconde grande chance a été de trouver à Limoges une ambiance, une possibilité de travailler au sein de l'université et au sein de la faculté de médecine et de l'hôpital universitaire.
His second big chance was to find in Limoges, when he arrived, a very good ambience, was a possibility to work really within the School of Medicine and within the University of Limoges.
Rares sont les hommes dans la vie qui peuvent faire une chose et laisser une trace s'ils arrivent à travailler seuls. Je crois que c'est impossible. Il faut avoir autour de soi une excellente ambiance, des collaborateurs et des personnes qui acceptent de faire les efforts nécessaires pour permettre à tout le groupe et non pas à une personne de réaliser quelque chose. Et cela, je l'ai trouvé à Limoges et progressivement, le groupe s'est organisé et m'a aidé. Nous vous avons parlé jusqu'à maintenant. J'ai beaucoup entendu professeur Dumas. Non, ce qui est important, c'est le groupe a réalisé quelque chose. Et comme dans tous les groupes, il faut bien qu'il y ait un conducteur.
Professor Dumas told us that for him it's impossible to realize and to make really an important trace in his life alone, in fact. And it's very important that he could find a very good ambience, collaborators, people who accept to do the necessary efforts for all the group to progress, in fact. And he was very happy to have that in Limoges. And the group organized progressively. And of course, it needed a leader. And he was this leader, but he was not alone. He was in the group.
Je dirais donc que je dois remercier, et je le fais du fond du cœur, tous mes collaborateurs, aussi bien au Sénégal qu'à Limoges ensuite, pour m'avoir permis quoi? De me faire plaisir. Car c'est cela. Si l'on réalise quelque chose, on ne peut le réaliser que dans la bonne ambiance et dans la joie.
So Professor Dumas want to thank all his collaborators in Senegal and Limoges to allow him to finally to have pleasure to do all that actions. And he want to say that we realize really good things in joy and with pleasure.
Nous pouvons donc peut-être maintenant passer à ce qui avait été prévu. Et je vais donc tout d'abord vous remercier les organisateurs de cette session, particulièrement le professeur Chandra, qui a organisé tout cela, et avec lui et derrière lui, la World Federation of Neurology, et particulièrement le professeur Shakir, qui est devenu un excellent ami.
So Professor Dumas wanted to thank all the organizers of this session, the World Federation of Neurology, Professor Chandra, and also Professor Shakir, who has become a good friend.
Professeur Gallo Diop, mon petit-fils, et professeur Preux, mon deuxième petit-fils, m'ont permis de poursuivre et de faire ce que j'avais à cœur, le développement de la neurologie tropicale.
So Professor Gallo Diop and Professor Pierre-Marie Preux, his grandchildren, has allowed him to do what he wanted to do in the tropical neurology field.
La diapositive suivante.
C'est bon.
Je voudrais maintenant rendre un hommage à mes maîtres, plus spécifiquement tropicalistes, qui ont su créer le concept de neurologie tropicale.
I want to pay a tribute to all my masters, in particular tropicalists, who have know to set up finally this concept of tropical neurology.
Tout d'abord, bien entendu, mon maître, le professeur Collomb, qui a été d'abord un grand interniste, puis un très grand neurologue, avant de devenir ou de réaliser ce qu'il avait dans son cœur, c'est-à-dire devenir un psychiatre, un ethnopsychiatre. Il était infatigable et je lui dois tout, et particulièrement mon attachement au développement de la neurologie tropicale.
He wants to pay a tribute to Professor Henri Collomb, his master in Dakar, a great internist, a great neurologist, psychiatrist, and ethno-psychiatrist, tireless, to whom he owed everything, and in particular his attachment to the development of neurology in the tropics.
J'ai un grand attachement aussi pour le professeur Vadia de Bombay, qui était un grand homme, mais parmi les très grands, non seulement en Inde, mais réellement dans tout le monde neurologique.
Also his faithful friend, Professor Wadia from Bombay, a great among the great, not only in India, but in the whole neurological world.
Le professeur Antonio Spinafranca, qui était vénéré au Brésil, au Portugal, et on peut le dire, dans toute l'Amérique latine, qui a beaucoup œuvré pour créer, pour aider à la création du concept de neurologie tropicale.
Professor Antonio Spinafranca, highly respected in Brazil, in Portugal, and all of Latin America, and we work a lot to set up this concept of tropical neurology.
Et parmi ces grands, je ne peux malheureusement pas citer tout le monde, mais parmi eux, il y avait aussi le professeur Treyes, Oscar Treyes, dont un des fils, Louis, était devenu neurologue, malheureusement emporté trop vite. Certes, le Pérou a bénéficié de l'apport, de la connaissance, de l'amour du professeur Treyes, mais il faut savoir que ce n'était pas simplement un des promoteurs de la neurologie au Pérou, mais qu'il a été en même temps aussi un très grand universaliste.
So also to Professor Oscar Treyes, who was a master of neurology in Peru, and one of his sons was also a neurologist, Luis Treyes, who unfortunately passed away too early. And Oscar Treyes was certainly a Peruvian, but above all, a universalist. And Professor Dumas told us that he cannot mention everybody, of course, in this tribute.
Nous parlons beaucoup de neurologie tropicale, mais ce concept est né il n'y a pas très longtemps, en 1961, à Buenos Aires, il a été conçu, élaboré dans un groupe de 22 neurologues, essentiellement d'Amérique latine. Et je rendrai hommage là aussi au professeur uruguayen de Montevideo, qui a été un des acteurs pour créer ce concept de neurologie tropicale, qui finalement, maintenant, n'a guère que 60 ans.
So we talk a lot about the concept of tropical neurology, but in fact, this concept emerged and not so many years ago. It was 60 years ago in Buenos Aires in 1961, during the first tropical commission of the WFN, and it has been elaborated by 22 representatives of tropical countries from Africa, America, and Asia who participated in this meeting.
Ce concept a été ensuite repris et a permis au professeur Spillan de créer, de faire son premier livre sur la neurologie tropicale, ce manuel qui nous a servi à tous et qui a servi de base à l'élaboration du concept.
This concept was used by Professor Spillan in his book in 1973. And this book was used after that to continue to develop this concept in other books, in fact.
Et il y a quelques années, mais simplement 4 ou 5 ans, qu'un magnifique livre a été élaboré par le professeur Shakir, livre qui nous sert de référence actuellement, qui a repris beaucoup des idées développées par le professeur Spillan. Et je remercierai le professeur Preux, qui, avec ses grandes connaissances épidémiologiques, a voulu et a créé le tout dernier, qui est Neuroepidemiology, Tropical Health, qui a été publié ici, à Limoges, il y a à peine 3 ans.
So Professor Dumas recalls that finally, a few years ago, Professor Shakir has done a beautiful book that is finally the reference now in of a book of tropical neurology, and he is very kind to recall that we published together, my master with Michel Dumas, a book in 2018 in neuroepidemiology in tropical health.
La création d'un tel concept suppose que la neurologie tropicale soit une spécialité de la neurologie mondiale, mais pour devenir réellement une spécialité de la neurologie mondiale, il faut savoir reconnaître dans la neurologie tropicale les similitudes par rapport à la neurologie mondiale, mais aussi et surtout les différences qui existent. Et se poser la question, doit-on ou non, dans le futur, conserver le concept de neurologie tropicale?
So this concept of tropical neurology finally wants finally us to make tropical neurology as a specialty, subspecialty of the world neurology. And finally, it's to outline the specificities of neurology in tropical countries, the similarities, but also the differences. And the question is now, should we continue to differentiate this concept of tropical neurology or not?
Dans la conception de ce concept, pour répondre à la question similitude ou différence, il est bien évident que le groupe entier de tous les neurologues tropicalistes a travaillé.
To help to make these differences emerge, finally, all the groups of tropical neurologists worldwide has worked.
Je n'avais pas la possibilité ni le temps, malheureusement, de présenter les visages de cette armée de neurologues tropicalistes qui ont travaillé, qui ont publié à propos de ce concept de neurologie tropicale.
I did not have the place and the time to talk about all this army of tropical neurologists who worked, who published on this concept of tropical neurology.
Je voudrais, sur cette diapositive, montrer le visage du professeur Ndiaye. Le professeur Ndiaye a été le premier neurologue sénégalais qui a assuré notre succession au Sénégal.
Professor Ndiaye was the first Senegalese neurologist who has continued our actions in Senegal after we left for Limoges.
Il était donc mon fils.
He was my son.
Moi-même, j'étais le fils du professeur Colomb.
As I was the son of Professor Colomb.
Et le professeur Gallo Diop est le fils du professeur Ndiaye, donc mon petit-fils.
And so Professor Gallo Diop, who is the son of Professor Ndiaye, is the grandchildren of Professor Dumas.
Ernest Kwasi a été le premier neurologue ivoirien de Côte d'Ivoire à Abidjan. Je lui rends un hommage, il vient de prendre sa retraite.
Professor Kwasi was the first Ivorian neurologist in Abidjan, and he just retired.
Nous ne pouvons que regretter le décès, il y a quelques années, du professeur Benjamin Osuntokun du Nigeria.
We can only regret the death of Benjamin Osuntokun from Nigeria.
Il a beaucoup œuvré et aurait continué à œuvrer de très nombreuses années s'il a eu la chance de continuer à vivre.
He has done many things, and if he had the luck to continue to live, in fact, he will have done many other things.
Et avec Osuntokun, un petit mot de ODQ. ODQ était un neurochirurgien, mais tous les deux ont beaucoup œuvré.
And also Professor Odekiu was a neurosurgeon, and he worked a lot with Professor Osuntokun.
Parler de tous ces nombreux neurologues.
I cannot talk about all these great neurologists.
ils ont beaucoup, d'autres diapositives, voilà. Ils ont beaucoup œuvré pour étudier les similitudes et les différences dans la conception de la neurologie tropicale. Alors, cette neurologie tropicale, elle est très étendue dans le monde. Il suffit de regarder la carte pour concevoir. Donc, il ne peut pas y avoir à l'intérieur de cette grande neurologie, cette grande géographie, une conception unique.
Tropical neurology is very largely extended, and because of the tropics, in fact, you can see it on a map, and so it's not possible to have one and unique neurology in all these zones.
Donc, il y a très probablement très peu de possibilités qu'il y ait une unification à partir d'une origine génétique.
So it's unlikely that there was a unification finally based on a genetic origin.
On pourrait presque affirmer qu'il y a non pas une neurologie tropicale, mais des neurologies tropicales variées.
We can almost affirm that there is no one tropical neurology, but many tropical neurologies, various neurologies, depending on the zone.
L'unification se fait à partir des origines environnementales, à partir de l'environnement.
And so the unification of tropical neurology is done based on environmental factors.
Et quels sont ces facteurs environnementaux?
And so which are these environmental factors?
Il y a de nombreuses causes, de nombreuses étiologies.
So numerous causes, numerous etiologies.
Mais il ne faut pas oublier les aspects culturels.
And we have not to forget the cultural aspects also,
qui donnent une spécificité à la neurologie tropicale.
They give a specificity to tropical neurology.
Leur influence a été très mal étudiée.
Their influence was very badly studied, in fact.
Mais il est sûr et certain que nous devons continuer. Mes enfants continueront à étudier.
So we shall continue to study these cultural factors.
Car la culture dans tous ces pays est très importante pour comprendre, et en particulier, je ne prendrai qu'un seul exemple, celui de l'épilepsie.
Culture is very important in these countries to understand what is going on. And for example, just one example, epilepsy.
L'étude de l'épilepsie en Afrique n'est pas du tout la même que celle en Asie.
The study of epilepsy in Africa is not the same than the study of epilepsy in Asia.
Mais dans l'environnement, il y a un facteur qui est très important, auquel il n'y a pas, on ne pense pas suffisamment à ce facteur.
There is one factor in the environment that is very important, and we don't think sufficiently about it.
Ce facteur existe dans toutes toutes les régions tropicales.
This factor exists in all the tropical regions of the world.
C'est un facteur qui permet de rassembler.
It is a factor which allows us to gather finally factors in one.
De quoi s'agit-il?
What is it?
Le soleil,
The sun,
l'ensoleillement,
the sun, in fact,
qui conditionne tout le climat.
which conditions the climate.
Et nous rejoignons là-dedans la grande commission qui vient d'avoir lieu à Glasgow la semaine dernière.
And so we have the link with the big commission, the COP, which was held in Glasgow last week.
Que nous apprend l'épidémiologie? Qu'il y a une prévalence de la sclérose en plaques qui est très faible sous les tropiques.
So what do we learn from epidemiology, and in particular from multiple sclerosis, for example? The prevalence of multiple sclerosis is very low in the tropics.
Que nous apprend l'étude du soleil?
What do we learn from the sun studies?
Qu'il a une action dépressive sur le corps humain.
He has a depressive action on the human body, on immunology.
Que nous apprend l'histologie, l'étude de l'histologique de la peau?
What do we learn about from histology study, the skin histology study?
Qu'il y a sur la peau et dans les muqueuses la première cellule immunologique de notre corps.
There is in the skin and in the mucus the first and the most important, probably, a cell of our body.
L'exposition aux rayons du soleil déprime cette première cellule immunologique.
The exposure of sun rays, in fact UV, depressed this cell.
Eh bien, nous n'avons plus qu'à réfléchir à ceci, à ce fait, qui est un fait réel, qui prédomine dans toutes les régions tropicales.
This is a fact which is true, which is real, and predominate in all the tropical regions of the world.
Et vous voyez dans les photos du bas l'importance de cet index ultraviolet dans la région tropicale.
You can see on the picture in this slide that there is a very big influence, of course, of UV index, UV rays in the tropical zone.
Quelles sont toutes les thérapeutiques proposées actuellement pour lutter contre la sclérose en plaques? Ce sont des thérapeutiques qui dépriment le système immunitaire.
Which are the treatments for the multiple sclerosis now, proposed now? They are all immunomodulators or immunosuppressive treatments.
Donc, parmi les facteurs environnementaux, il y a ce facteur qui persiste, qui persistera.
So among the environmental factors, there is these factors, the sun and the exposure to the sun, which will persist in the future, of course.
Mon souhait, je suis à la fin de ma vie. Mon souhait, c'est que dans le futur, on étudie réellement les possibilités ou l'impact possible de ce facteur climatique de ce facteur environnemental sur l'ensemble des maladies, en particulier neurodégénératives, qui existent.
I am at the end of my life, and so my wish is really that other people will take over and study this environmental factor, in particular on neurological disease, of course, in general, but in particular also in neurodegenerative diseases.
Et qu'il y ait donc des études profondes, épidémiologiques, entre la neurologie développée dans le monde et la neurologie développée sous les tropiques.
So maybe we can do a link between worldwide neurology, even in developed countries, and the link and the neurology developed and done in the tropics.
Merci par avance. Et tous nos enfants développeront, je l'espère. Et veuillez m'excuser d'avoir dépassé le temps de parole.
So thanks in advance for that, and all our sons will develop that, will develop this idea, and I apologize to have take more time for this presentation.
Et merci, mon cher Pierre-Marie,
Yeah.
d'avoir su translate my good
Yeah,
French.
no problem. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, mon cher maître. Thank you, everybody. I would like to thank Professor Dumas. Professor, you have all the rights, Professor Dumas. You can do what you want, how you want. You have all the right. Donc, vous avez tous les droits. Don't worry about that. We've been very pleased to share this time with you. I would like at this time of the speech to also tell to all our elder brothers, our younger brothers, Professor Kwasi, Professor Masu, Professor Therese, Milogo, Kabore, Avode, Gabon, all the African countries, our friend in South America, in Asia. I don't have all the name, but you all know what is the link between us. I think that one of the lesson from this session is to really give the sense of World Federation of Neurology. Yeah, we are really a world federation. You know, all these people coming from different countries, different cultures, spending their lives, spending their science with us, you know, inspiring us. You know, we are so grateful. I'm not the older, I'm not the younger. I just want to, you know, put all together and express our thanks to World Federation of Neurology, all the presidents, all the trustees, and all our colleagues in our different countries. We are so grateful. You know, the situation is very tough in our country, but we do not feel alone. We feel in each of you a lot of sympathy, a lot of understanding. You're sharing with us your science, your generosity, and that's has helped us to raise school and centers, and I can guarantee you that things are moving dramatically in Africa. It's really moving. It's slow, but it's moving. We are very optimistic about that. I would like to thank you. I would like at this time to give back the floor to Professor Chandra, who is the master, the manager of this kind of session. Thank you once again, Bill and Rad, for being with us, our friends in France, in Europe, for being here. We're very pleased. And this is my last word, as Professor Dumas has said, it's now to us and to our students to continue and deliver. We shall do it, and we will do it with all your help, all your support. Thanks a lot. Monsieur Dumas, merci beaucoup. Nous vous souhaitons une santé recouvrée. Nous espérons vous voir reprendre les avions et revisiter vos différents pays, parce que votre présence nous est très inspirante, très utile. Nous suivons scrupuleusement votre état de santé. Nous ne pouvons que prier qu'elle revienne pleinement, que Dieu vous préserve, qu'il vous laisse parmi nous, que vous continuez à nous inspirer et que tout ce que vous laisserez comme héritage soit préservé et enrichi. Nous en faisons le serment, nous le ferons par la grâce de Dieu. Merci beaucoup. Professor Chandra, I give you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We had a great session, and we have distinguished faculty in the room. So I would like to have comments about this wonderful, inspirational person. Professor Raj Shakir.
Thank you very much, Chandrasekhar. It really is so nice to see Michel, and so nice to hear him and hear Pierre-Marie Proulx, his successor, and the presentation of Gallo, as usual, is a master at these things. Well, Michel and I go a very long time, Michel. In the 1980s, you all remember Charlie Poser. Charlie Poser is a close friend of mine, and more so, he is a close friend of Michel. He was the bridge between the Francophone neurologists, being Belgian, and the establishment of the WFN, being the first editor of World Neurology, which is now edited by Steve Lewis, in 1957-58, and he was the liaison between the tropics and the WFN. And Charlie told me, you have this interest, which I developed in the early 80s with Noucher Wadia and became the secretary of the Tropical Neurology Group of the WFN at the World Congress in Hamburg. And I was told that there's only one, by Charlie, one real tropical neurology institute, which is a new one. The London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene was long established, but it wasn't specific to neurology, while Michel established in Limoges a specific institute. So I went to visit Limoges, and I remember very well, Michel will not allow me to stay in a hotel. I was a guest at his home, and I really enjoyed that, and the relationship flourished. So then with tropical neurology meeting in Martinique, Michel, we went, and that was the first time a few years ago. Gustavo was there, who is on this call, that HTLV1 spastic paraplegia was described in Martinique. And Dr. Verna was the man who wrote this, and then Gustavo, and the history has gone on. So ever since then, Michel and I have had a wonderful relationship. And one thing about Michel, he is knowledgeable to the degree that he gives honest advice. So when I ask people, shall I run to be Secretary General or President of the World Federation, I asked a few people for advice, and one of them was Michel Dumas. So he's not just a mentor, he's a friend, an advisor, and he tells you exactly what you should, and more importantly, what you shouldn't do. So I appreciated his friendship over the last nearly 40 years, and I'm so delighted to be able to speak today in this session, which really gives me a huge amount of honor. And I just want to state that he's been my friend, mentor for 4 decades. And Michel is a is a wonderful man and a wonderful servant to neurology across the world, from Asia to Latin America, and of course, his home country of West Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rag. Gustavo Roman, Professor Gustavo, would like to say something? A warm welcome. Welcome.
It has been a real pleasure to see Professor Dumas and to learn about the early history of the Neuroepidemiology Institute in Limoges. As you may remember, the National Institute of Health in the United States was one of the first institutions to create a specific area of research in neuroepidemiology. So Professor Dumas and I have been working together and wondering what should be the areas of development of this specialty. I was a pupil of Charlie Poser. He was my, as they say in French, mon maître. And I had the privilege of being his student, and he was interested in many areas of tropical neurology, including not only HTLV1, but for instance, he wrote a beautiful book on the history of malaria, which is something that would be unusual for someone who practiced in the cold winters of Burlington, Vermont in the United States. So Professor Dumas, it's a pleasure to see you. And it has been, I've been delighted to learn about your early experiences. And we hope you will continue to give us advice and expertise. So many thanks.
Thank you, Professor Gustavo. Then Riyadh and then Tisa. Riyadh?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Well, welcome.
Thank you for this this series, and I wanted just to have few French words to Jean-Michel and my friends. Jean-Michel, tu as été comme d'habitude, je vais vous voyer dans ces réunions publiques, vous avez été comme d'habitude magistral et vous avez discuté si oui ou non nous devons garder la neurologie tropicale. Alors je vais répondre en anglais. Now I'm in Djibouti. I'm teaching neurology here for several years, and I'm witnessing what tropical neurology, how tropical neurology also is important. In all these countries, there's an epidemiological transition. And you have at this time, at the same time, the diseases that are from tropical neurology itself and sub-Saharan region, and diseases coming from the non-communicable diseases who are for neurology coming on. So having the tropical neurology and having this specialty is important. Another point, we are witnessing in the continent and also now in several parts of the world, so huge movement of populations, migration. We have students, for example, in Gallo Institution in Senegal. We have people from sub-Saharan Africa in our country, Tunisia. And we have to know what is specific and how things are changing. So I have no doubt about the utility and that tropical neurology will be something that will continue for years and years now to be helpful to neurology. That's one. The second point is more personal. I wanted also to give tribute to Jean-Michel for how he's done. I'm witnessing what School of Neurology have built, how he had worked tirelessly to put on all this neurology in sub-Saharan Africa. I see his fellows now making schools and having dozens and now hundreds of neurologists are being on all this part. So please, Jean-Michel, accept all my gratitude for what you have done for us as a continent and for neurology in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Riyadh.
Merci beaucoup.
Professor Tisa Vijayaratne, and then Marco. Tisa.
Professor Meshram, thank you so much for this session once again, and Professor Gallo and others. I just wanted to change the discussion towards the future. I think we saw the amazing friendship between Professor Shakir and Professor Dumas, and how it has delivered a lot of benefits to the world. When we live in extraordinary circumstances, if you were to share my experience right now, I'm covering 2 sick neurologists and some of my junior doctors, junior colleagues who are clever, but they are not from this old school. They are basically interested in their dedicated time for work as per employee bargaining contract. They're basically, I'm not criticizing them, but their main interest is what is in it for us, more so than what can we give. But when we look back, as Professor Shakir and Professor Dumas both mentioned during last 4 or 5 decades, how the collaborations globally has given things to the future. So it's so inspiring to hear these stories, and it is also equally important to record them in World Federation Neurology archives and continue to inspire our younger generations the important task. While it is important to ask what we can get, it is even more important to always think what we can give from global sense. I completely agree with Professor Gallo that the one of the beautiful thing about WFN is even in this Zoom windows, we can see different color, different background, different ethnicities, different dialects, different accents, yet talking on a common theme. We wanted to promote brain health. We wanted to promote quality neurology worldwide. I think the WFNA is nicely ripe right now to get this task done. And I sincerely hope to see Professor Dumas and every other senior colleagues to stay well and stay healthy, to see how we get these tasks done in the coming 5 to 10, 15 years. I'm eternally optimistic, despite the hardships that we all face. There is an old saying that I like to share. In the birding world, if you are a bird watcher, there's a well-known fact that the birds who are disappearing from the planet, the key thing is, as you know, that the male birds and female birds get together from male birds' calls. And the young male birds can only learn how to sing by listening to all birds' the calls, because there's no bird university for them to learn. The reason for some of the birds disappearing from the planet is because of the deforestation and environmental destruction. Not a lot of old birds are around to sing enough for the younger male birds to learn. So as a result of that, their power of the call is disappearing, and this is one reason for these birds to vanish. We must make sure that young neurologists birds and young trainee birds are not going to lost in this trade union actions and what is in it for them. And they must learn the art of mastering from old birds, as we heard some of the songs tonight. And I will make sure with other colleagues in WFN that these things are archived and these things are shared among younger folks. So I'm very optimistic. So we are a bit more cleverer than birds. Therefore, we would not let these younger neurologists and trainees to vanish, and we will make sure that they will continue to promote quality neurology and better brain health. And I think WFN is the ideal platform to get this job done. And thank you so much, Chandrasekhar, for putting this, and thank you everyone else to staying for this the session, and Professor Dumas in particular for such an inspiration legacy, and being a very nice old bird, continue to sing for the younger birds to learn in neurology world. Thank you.
Thank you, Disa, and thanks for staying in so late in the night. Thanks, Professor Marco Medina. Mansi, can you get in Jocks Hugan in?
Thank you so much, Meshram. It's a great pleasure to give some words for Professor Michel Dumas. His work has been fundamental around the world. In Latin America, he has been one of the promoters of tropical neurology. And I just remember when we went to Venezuela in Caracas, and at that time I was pretty amazed how well he was speaking in Spanish. You know, he's a man of trying to see the cultures around the world. So he was mentioning about that in tropical neurology, and I think, and I truly believe that when we are discussing about tropical neurology, we need to discuss about tropical anthropology or anthropology around the world that affect the different diseases, including tropical neurology diseases. He was mentioned as well about the first meeting in Buenos Aires as one of the places where the concept of tropical neurology was established. We have been discussing about that specific time with Raj Shakir and the visit of Dr. Guardia at that time and our friends in Latin America. Also, the promotion of this idea has been evolving. So at this moment, we have been establishing a beautiful conferences about tropical neurology in different parts of the world. For instance, in Mumbai or in Sao Paulo. And the next Congress will be in Peru, the next Tropical Neurology Congress. And the last years, we have been working as well with Professor Raj Shakir, with Mesh and myself, John England, in a tropical neurology issue. So, Professor Dumas, you have been promoting this beautiful tree, and it's evolving, having several branches around the world. Your work has been fundamental. So I am very pleased to tell you that you are the grandfather of many, many sons around the world. And thank you so much for your work. Et j'aimerais vous dire, Monsieur Dumas, vous êtes l'inspiration autour du monde. Et merci beaucoup pour votre travail. Et j'espère que vous aurez l'opportunité de vivre pour aider des gens qui aimeront travailler avec vous. Et merci beaucoup, Monsieur Dumas.
Les gens qui sont déjà là.
Thank you, Professor Marco. Professor Marco and PFNS is organizing another webinar series, which is going on, and you can join that. That's wonderful. Dr. Nandan Yardi would like to say something.
Thank you very much, Professor Chandrasekhar, for allowing me in this elite meeting. It's a great pleasure for me to see face-to-face on this conference, if not physically, Professor Michel Dumas. And I would like to bring to everyone's notice his contribution in the WHO ILAE global campaign for epilepsy. This is in 1995 when I first met Professor Dumas in Sydney, along with Professor Pierre-Marie, who was a student. He was yet to begin his PhD under Professor Dumas at that time, if you remember Pierre-Marie. And we were talking over lunch, and I had received an award from the ILAE, an educational award for which I had to do some work in our country. And I thought of doing a knowledge attitude practice study in Western Maharashtra, for which I didn't know whom to go to. And Professor Dumas came forward and held my hand. He told me about the epidemiology and how to go about it. He sent me his Limoges questionnaire. He also modified it for me for Indian circumstances, and we actually did the study. The study was presented in the Developing Countries Commission in Geneva, along with the WHO people. And Professor Ted Reynolds was then the ILA president. And believe me, Michel stood by all of us. Gallo Diop was also there as a very young neurologist. And he stood by us as a master in that meeting. And the whole idea of that meeting was to sort of, bring out what are the difficulties in the developing world, in sub-Saharan Africa, in Asia, in Southeast Asia. And this eventually was the thrust which within a couple of months, the ILAE and the WHO got together, and the rest is history. It has been one of the most successful collaborations on neurology with the WHO. And amongst us, it was Gallo Diop who continued to be with the campaign for several years. Remember, Gallo, what we went through at that time. And with this, I would like to stop my comment and pay homage to Michel Dumas and wish him a long and healthy life, and telling him that you must continue to sort of mentor us. Incidentally, I have been collaborating with Pierre Marie and also with one of his students now. So our collaboration goes on in 3 generations. That's the penetration of Professor Michel Dumas' mentorship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nandan. Augustina? Augustina is, yeah.
So I am one of the junior birds that Tisa spoke of, and there's very little I can add to the great words that have already been said before me. I myself was acquainted with Prof. Dumas in 2015 when the African Academy of Neurology was created, and his influence was very palpable at the time, and it still is. And even though I personally have not had the honor to work with him directly, every single encounter I have with my colleagues across the continent, you can feel that influence. It's so palpable. It's in every single person that we speak to in the neurological field on the continent. So I think I personally am extraordinarily honored to be part, to have felt this influence. And I certainly hope that other junior colleagues of mine will continue to feel this great influence, and we will build on the amazing, huge foundation that has been placed before us. And I think it was Prof. Gallo who said this, it's a duty that we have now to build on this foundation, because we have been given such a great gift, and for that we're truly grateful. Merci beaucoup, Prof. Dumas.
Thank you, Tina. So Steve Lewis.
So this has been an incredible day today. I want to thank Professors Diop and Professor Prue for those wonderful tributes, and Chandrasekhar, Professor Meshram, thank you for putting this together. Michel Dumas, I want to thank him for all he's done for tropical neurology in Africa and throughout the world, and it's really an incredible privilege to hear Professor Dumas speak today. It was an incredibly insightful and thoughtful lecture, and I'm so pleased to have had the privilege to hear him speak today. So thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. Marianne? Professor Marianne, would like to say something?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank you for yet another fantastic session on this time on Professor Dumas. I very much regret that I've never met Professor Dumas, but I really enjoyed today's session, which was led by Professor Diop, with presentations by Professor Diop, Professor Preux, and of course by Professor Dumas. I'm very much impressed by all the achievements in tropical neurology by Professor Dumas. Thank you very much, Dr. Meshram.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Marian. Jack Hugo, Jax, are you still there? No, I think we lost contact with him.
Jacques Hugon. Monsieur Hugon, vous êtes là ou vous êtes,
yeah, he was here.
Okay. Bill is here, I think.
Anybody would like to say?
Bill is still here. Jacques Hugon? Okay, maybe Bill?
Yeah, I have. I'm not sure if Professor Michel Dumas. It's just been a lovely time. Some of the French, I couldn't understand much of that, but there was an excellent translation. And 1994 was the year, and I had just finished my training in neurology, and I was very keen to attend this tropical neurology conference. But I didn't have any money with me, so I wrote to Professor Michel Dumas at that time, and he was very kind, not only to waive off the registration fees for the conference, but he also arranged some accommodation for me, and I think it was a wonderful conference, my first conference overseas, and my interest is in neurocystic psychosis. That's one of the areas, and I have no hesitation in saying that that was the time I met so many stalwarts, and I really got interested in cystic psychosis. So thank you, Professor Dumas. You were much younger at that time, but and I'm seeing you after so many years. But you were magnanimous, and this conference was excellent, and I have always fond memories of that because it was my first international conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Gagan. As I said, that Gagan is now last week taken over as president-elect of Indian Academy of Neurology. Congratulations, Gagan.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. Thank you so much.
Any comments from any faculty? I think there are none. Then
is Bill here? Is Bill Carroll here? Still here? Or left? It's too late in Asia, in Australia.
Yeah, Mans, can you get the faculties, those who have raised hands, get in? Jax was here. We lost him.
Okay, Sandra, I'll let you conclude and do the last word.
We had excellent session. Not only it was a learning session, it was very inspiring, and I must thank that we had Professor Michel Dumas for this session, and we can feel the enthusiasm, feel the zeal, and his desire that more work, more research, more exploration about the diseases to be done. That's wonderful. It's a great tribute, and we must salute him, Professor Michel Dumas. And wonderful words by all the faculty, especially Gallo Diop and Professor Pierre Marie. Excellent presentation and wonderful work, and all the faculty and all the attendees. For this session we had people from all over the world, different regions, and it was a really great, inspiring session. And it puts you on different perspective totally, and you start thinking in a different way after listening to these great people and the work they have done. And I would like to thank everyone for being part of this session, which was extremely wonderful, and we wish a very long and healthy life. I was a little concerned about a few days back about whether Michel Dumas would be able to join with us today, but I'm glad that he was with us, and we wish him a very long and healthy life, and that he keeps inspiring. Thank you very much. And in the month of January, most probably the 8th, we'll have a session on Professor P.K. Thomas, and we'll keep you updated about the forthcoming sessions that we'll have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Allez, au revoir.
Au revoir.
Merci à tous.
Ouais, merci.
Au revoir, Monsieur Dumas.
Au revoir.
Salut.
Salut.
Salut. Salut. Enchanté de vous revoir. Allez,
À bientôt, Gustavo.
à bientôt, oui.
Au revoir, professeur Dumas.
Au revoir, Bismarck.
Mon cher Bismarck.
Au revoir.
Allô?
C'est super, félicitations, c'était très bien.
Attends, je te...
Bonjour, monsieur.
Mon cher Gallo.
C'était très bien.
Non.
Félicitations, merci.
Merci surtout à vous d'avoir très bien dirigé cette session.
End the session.
Yes.